Kicked off last year in October 2019. Under this program, we are supporting the entry of youth into the agricultural sector through hydroponics farming. And the idea behind the program is basically just job creation.
Kazi haikuwa inapatikana, ilikuwa siku mara moja, siku mbili inaisha.
It was hard to get a job, but through the program, it is easier to get a job and you wanna live it.
Hapo awali nilikuwa natafuta job sana, ile kuhustle. Hapo wakati nilipata hii job, tu inanipatia motisha kuamka na kufika kwa site on time.
Lakini inanifanya kila siku niamka asubuhi ni at least nisitegemee mtu, nikuwe najitegemea mimi mwenyewe.
Currently, we have 106 beneficiaries who have joined us. So we have 176 beneficiaries who are constructing the greenhouses. We have also 100 youth from the community who are taking part in the construction of the greenhouses, and they will be brought on board to the program. We have 100 greenhouses at this farm. So far we have done 56 that we have covered with the UV cover. But from the greenhouses that we are constructing, we have other facilities like the accommodation area that will cater for 100 beneficiaries. We have the kitchen that will be taken over by KCB Foundation to Jajiri graduates in catering. We have the clinic. We have the COVID-19 isolation section. We have produce and sorting area, ablution block, and the generator room.
The MasterCard Foundation has provided funding. So the KCB Foundation and ourselves are implementing partners for that program in Kenya. Mirama International are the lead partner under the agricultural pillar. We have a company called Gearbox, who are the lead partner under the manufacturing pillar. And then you have ourselves, Axkills, who are the lead partner under the construction pillar. Some of the things that we've done is actually reduce the number of teams that work together. We increase the number of tools so that we minimize the sharing of tools among workers. Everybody is screened as they come in the morning and as they leave.
About the pandemic, we are doing our best to observe the measures, wearing the mask, sanitizing every moment.
KCB Foundation, I've been able to register my own company. At the end of this program, my aim is to become a contractor.
Na plan nikitoka hapa ni register my company, nijiajiri na hii kazi.
I would highly recommend some other youths outside to this KCB Foundation program. Hii program inasaidia mayouth sana sana, mtu unajifanyia, unakuwa unajitegemea au utakuwa ki-idle huko nje.
Ile kitu ningependa kuambia MasterCard Foundation, Young Africa Works ambao wamepata na KCB Foundation tujiajiri na Axkill, Asanteni sana, ni kwa maana mali nimefika sasa hivi ni kwa sababu yao.
They have really helped me. I will highly appreciate them. They keep up with the same spirit.
I would like to thank them, one, for allowing us women to work with them in construction industry.
Good afternoon. Well, for those of us who are in Kenya, and I would just love to say a special welcome to Your Excellency, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya and global leader for the Young People's Agenda. I'd also love to welcome the UN family, all the excellencies, ambassadors, the high commissioners, and the distinguished young people who are tuned in from across this country. I've been seeing the chats coming in, people from Turkana, from Kilifi, from right here in Nairobi, and also to all the distinguished young people who are streaming in from across the globe. I just want to say a special welcome to the official launch of the Generation Unlimited partnership in Kenya. My name is Adele Onyango, and together with my co-host, who's going to be joining us a little later, Waihiga Maura, over the next few hours, we will be celebrating young people as we should every single day, and we'll be celebrating for the change makers they really are. But we're also going to dig deep into the issues faced by young people today and the solutions that they think need to be implemented both by private sector and also by government. Now, we have a dynamic, driven, and very accomplished group of young people who are ready to lead this conversation, and I can't wait for us to get into it. But first, what is Generation Unlimited? So Generation Unlimited, you can call it Gen U if you're cool, is a global multi-sector partnership to meet the urgent need for expanded education, training, and employment opportunities for young people who are aged between 10 and 24. It was set up in 2018, and again, today we're here to launch the Generation Unlimited partnership in Kenya. So before we get into the conversations that I spoke about earlier on, one way to really bring about change is through art. So I would love us to take a look at this amazing performance by two really, really talented Kenyans. One is thespian Elsafen Jora and spoken word artist Teardrop, and they will be presenting to us our time, our turn, and our future.
So whose time is it? Whose turn is it? Whose future is it? We find ourselves under one theme, the future. What will it be? How can we ensure that it will be? But unlike before, we're here because we have the foreknowledge, the wisdom to perceive that life is a continuum. And for this vision to be achieved, we need to empower the one who will be willing and able 50 years from now to say that we did it. And that's the youth. And for meaningful youth engagement, we need youth inclusivity to build capacity for young people so that there is diversity, transparency, and accountability. One day that 10 to 24-year-old will be 65, and we must decide today what we want them to say, what we want them to believe, what we want them to preach, how we want them to live. Therefore, Vision 2030 is but a milestone. And if we want to claim that our vision is 2020 perfect vision, then the day to start is already 7 months old. In the words of the president, we do not champion the cause of youth opportunity and hope because it is a favor, but rather as a necessary, undeniable embrace of our collective future. Time ni ya nani? Turn ni ya nani? Future ni ya nani?
Si unasoma kwa bidii, kisha unafanya kazi ya kutafuta kazi kwa bidii, wanafunzi walipass, ni system iliwafail. Percentage kubwa ya mayouth ni wale wa buda nipige kalon. Come on, hauko alone, hold on. Usiwete kimejesha mtu na utalesson utafanya kazi ya kuuza roll-on ama kolon. Kuna kitu nafaa kujua. Haufai kulala njaa kwa kuna food for thought, pika idea ya kishua. It's about time uanze ku bet na PhD na sio PhD ndio bet ya kishua. Literary library ni jini ya kupanua akili na wala sio kifua. Ni useless mwanaume na maviatu za mamilioni na akili haina eni. Mkokoteni nje kuna gurudumu ya Range Rover bado ni mkokoteni, lakini Ferrari yenye kuna gurudumu ya mkokoteni na engine ya Ferrari bado ni Ferrari. See, your outlook doesn't define you, your character, attitude and your knowledge does. So bora utembei uchi mind kushi Dolce Gabbana, kazi ni kazi, kijana zidi kazana.
Yeah, but teardrops, the survey says that 1 year, 3 out of 10 students who enrolled for school in class 1 failed to sit for their KCPE. Yeah, and in another year, only 18% of the KCSE candidates placed for degree courses in universities. And then in 2019, the unemployment rate was 9.3%, with 9 million individuals joining the labor force between 2015 to 2025. That is 900,000 jobs needed annually. If the problem persists, then insist on a perspective that is unique. And if we do need a different point of view, then we need to embrace the TikTok of our time. We need to weigh the options with the ground. And let's face it, even though change is not always by the book, if we do want to more than tweet the future, we need to embrace those who more than fit the picture. Time ni ya nani? Time ni ya nani? Future ni ya nani?
Yetu. See, umaskini na utajiri, they both begin with you and they both end with I. So the beginning and the end, umaskini na utajiri zote zina depend with you and I. You see, the problem kama tuko community ni kuna power na kuna empowerment, kuna transformers na kuna transformation. Tusipuka vijana in the light leo, kesho wataiba mafuta transformer na the whole community itakuwa in the dark. You see, tuko na problem kama tunaishi kwa communities zenye taya za kuchoma mwizi ziko more available kuliko job opportunities. Tuko na more problems kama kwa youth Kenya, uko na more opportunities of getting arrested than getting a job. See, mandovu kwa wale tazizi sort out the elephant in the room. See, ukiwa na shida.
Yes.
Shida ni the honor tusiwekele room.
Yeah, therefore solution, si kusema ni wewe ama shida ni wewe. Shida ni sisi, solution is sisi. That's where we are here today as Generation Unlimited. And not just unlimited with potential, but also redefined by our minds. Paint the dream.
We are here to transform the formal school experience. Yani kumanisha, education isiwe just a key. Kuzungori, milango za kisasa zinahitaji fingerprint, sensor na face recognition.
Yeah, we are here to also provide work opportunities for those outside the formal schooling. Shida isikuwe kutafuta kazi, shida ikuwe kuchagua kazi.
We are here to improve the connection between job seekers and work opportunities. Storytelling to actually potential barabara.
We are here to improve the quality of work. Adi Kebs will improve standards.
So we are here to empower the entrepreneurship mindset.
Yeah. To ensure equitable access and to equip the young people to be problem solvers. To ensure equitable access and to equip the young people to be problem solvers. After all, these are our policies. It is time that we awaken ourselves and be alive to the policy processes and decisions. And we have already been doing this. We call it the 2-5 law, with 30% government procurement secured and allocated for youth, women and those with disabilities. Now it is time to play the end game and grow this culture of infinity, because it can always get better. So accept the call to action. Let's push this further. And that is why we are here as Generation Unlimited. That by
2030,
every young person will be either in school, learning, training or employment, to ensure that by
2060,
every young person will either be in school, learning, training or employment, to ensure that by
2090,
every young person will either be in school, learning, training or employment.
Yani kumaanisha elimu, training na employment kwa youth izidi kuenda chain.
The all time yetu. Turn yetu, future ni yetu.
Excellent job there, Elsafan Jora and Teardrop spoken word artists. Ni time yetu, ni turn yetu, ni future yetu. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here together with the amazing Adele Onyango, who's just gotten us off-started on the right note. Generation Unlimited, Gen U for the cool ones out there. And really glad to have His Excellency, the President, being a part of today's launch, all the dignitaries involved, and also all distinguished young people watching this broadcast from different parts of the country and the world as well. This program is for you. Please pay attention to all the opportunities that are available as a result of what's happening here today. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. Now, Gen U's goal is to ensure that every young person aged 10 to 24 is either in school, training, or employment by 2030. That's within the next 10 years. And this is while making sure that girls, the poorest, those with disabilities, and young people on the move, and those in situations of armed conflict are not left behind. Now, I know some of you are asking, how do we achieve this? Well, this includes transforming the formal schools experience, connecting job seekers with work opportunities, and also ensuring equitable access to education, to training, to entrepreneurship, to employment, and to civic participation. It's all about equipping young people as problem solvers and much more. Now, you can't speak about these issues in 2020 without acknowledging the effect of COVID-19. Man, I'm tired of that word because it's affected young people, it's affected their education, it's affected their livelihoods. Now, this was important for the Gen U Global Board, and as a solution, Gen U is focused on in this year, connecting every school and every learner to the internet, scaling up remote and online learning, skilling, and of course, livelihood platforms, and encouraging entrepreneurial skills and opportunities, and so much more. Now, to help you get a better picture of what we are going to get into in regards to our discussion in the next couple of minutes, and to truly help you understand the ability of the youth to be at the center of innovations that will create solutions to problems that we are facing right now, let's take a minute and watch this video about youth innovations.
There are 1.8 billion young people in the world today. That's a lot.
Most of us live in lower income countries.
200 million of us aren't in secondary school.
A lot of us didn't even finish primary school.
Even the nearest school can be too far.
A waste of time.
Unsafe.
There are more of us, but fewer of us are working.
I couldn't find a job.
I'm not allowed to have one.
These are our generation's problems. But our generation has the solutions.
They're global
and local.
They're innovative.
And they work. We have the solutions.
And you have the power.
The expertise.
The resources.
So let's co-create.
Refine.
Scale up. We need classrooms that are online and on point.
A second chance if at first I don't succeed.
It doesn't stop at literacy or numeracy. We need new skills too.
Problem-solving skills.
Soft skills.
Math skills.
1 in 3 women aren't learning, training, or working,
as opposed to 1 in 10 men. I don't need to find my voice. I have a voice. I just need to be heard. And we won't stop searching for new ideas.
We can connect every school in the world to the internet.
Instantly translate languages so we can work anywhere.
Swipe right into a career.
Our generation is 25% of the population,
but 100%
of the future.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Generation Unlimited.
My goodness, could you feel the energy in that video? The energy of young people all around the world, the continent, and even right here in Kenya. Now, these are young people who are actually watching today. Many of you out there are. And when we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic that we're battling today, it's gravely affected everything that's happening to us, education, livelihoods, and so much more. It's made an already challenging situation even harder. And that's why this next panel is very important, where we'll be looking at entrepreneurship, education, and employment. We want to have a conversation, and I want to give you a quick summary that's touching on the impact of COVID on youth, creating an environment that encourages entrepreneurship amongst the youth, and how the youth can design sustainable solutions to problems in the communities And also, we're going to bring in a UNICEF perspective, an initiative to make sure that children can actually access quality education. And let me introduce my panelists to you at this time. Joining me for this next discussion, we'll be having Ruth Kagia, who's the Deputy Chief of Staff in the Office of the President of Kenya. Ruth, thank you so much for making time for us today. We also will be joined by Siddharth Chatterjee, who is the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Kenya, previously served as the UNFPA rep for Kenya. Thank you so much, Siddharth, for being a part of this. And last but not least is Wawera Njiru, who is the founder of Food for Education, and I must say the winner of the first ever Global Citizen Prize for the youth leadership that was awarded at the Global Citizen Festival in 2018. A very competent panel to discuss a very important topic at this time. And Siddharth, I believe you can hear me loud and clear. Thank you for joining us. I'm actually going to start with you just to get your perspective on what GenU means for you, Generation Unlimited. What should it mean for our audience watching today, whether locally or globally, in terms of the goal, the aim, the mission? Let me know. Tell me.
Well, thank you very much, Excellency, the President of Kenya, friends and colleagues, CS is present. I think Generation Unlimited actually is about unleashing and harnessing the real potential of young people. The African continent is blessed with a median age of 18. Take Kenya's median age, which is 18. Take Sweden's median age, which is 47. The new consumption and production for the world in COVID, post-COVID, is going to happen in Africa. So what Kenya is doing with Generation Unlimited, where the spirit is to make sure that by 2030, every young person is trained, is educated, and is employed. Today, every day, every year, 1 million Kenyans are joining the workforce, of which we are creating barely about 200,000 new jobs. A lot of them go into the informal sector. What we now need to do is ramp up our ability to create those jobs. We need a Marshall Plan that Western Europe saw during the post-Second World War, of that magnitude and ambition to happen here. And I think what the President of Kenya is doing is driving transformative change. And that is why Generation Unlimited and the member states recognized him, along with the UN Secretary General, who you see behind me, as the two global leaders, amongst others. And this is where we would need real leadership in that transformative change. But I want to conclude this by saying that we have two prime movers in this initiative in government, which is CS Joe Michiru and Ruth Kagia, who really turned on the engines, and the entire UN country team of 23 UN agencies, funds, and programs have aligned our programs to respond to this clarion call made by the President of this country. Over to you.
Siddharth, I think you've captured that actually very well. I have a couple more questions for you, and I'll be coming back to you for that. But let me bring in Madam Kagia, who you already spoke of, and she's joining us now, just to help us understand, because Sid, you've given us a global perspective about GenU and of course the issues of COVID. Let's talk a bit local right now, Madam Kagia, in terms of the new reality created by GenU for young people. And of course, how long you think it will take before these opportunities become accessible for a majority of young people. How would you respond to that, Madam Kagia, today?
Thank you, Wahiga. Welcome, Your Excellency. It's a privilege to have you on this call. And welcome to all the young people on this call. This has been an exciting process, getting ready for this meeting, because it's been purely driven and directed by young people. And that's the way it should be. And in some ways, Wahiga, that is the starting point. Having young people at the center of the conversation, not as listeners and as spectators, but as active players. GenU is not going to do anything new. What GenU is going to help us to do is to amplify what is already happening. When we did a quick survey of all the youth development programs going on in training, in entrepreneurship, support to businesses, we found about over 200 billion shillings worth of activities that are ongoing in the country supporting young people. And then our question was, why am I not aware of them? Why don't I know somebody who has benefited from this? So what has been happening is that in spite of a lot of very good and creative programs to support young people, 2 and 2 is coming to 3. What GenU is going to help us to do is to make 2 and 2 become 6. So basically amplifying, coordinating better, letting the young people who need to benefit from this be aware of it, be able to access it. Secondly, we're going to use the GNU platform, which is a global platform, to learn from other countries. We've already taken some important lessons from Bangladesh and India, who are working as frontline countries together with ourselves. So to try and understand how are they solving the same problems we are facing here of unemployment, and then crowd in good practices from across the world. Thirdly, we are going to identify, given that we have this important program, let's take the Youth Enterprise Fund, which is a very creative program, is cited across the world. Why is it that it is not having the reach that we were expecting it to have? So what we are going to be doing is putting a spotlight on initiatives that have potential to have impact, but they are not having the expected impact. And we are going to do two things: identify what more could we do to make them have a greater impact. Secondly, what more could we do in terms of additional funding? And we have identified 7 key programs that are world-class in terms of their innovativeness, but they are not having the same level of impact that we would expect them to have. They include Wings to Fly, they include Ajira, they include creative programs in Tibet, using the Rift Valley Vocational Technical Training College, which trains students, not theoretically, but they also use the Tibet as a car repair shop. So they are not just learning theoretically about how to repair a car, they're actually doing it and servicing clients. So you are combining service with study. So such creative programs, how do we make them the norm, not the exception? So what GNU is going to do is to enable us to complete the circles, to remove the gaps, so that at the end of the day, we have a much more strong program. And we've done this before, as I close. We did it on primary education. If you recall, in 2000, we were doing reasonably well in terms of getting all the children in school, but there were major gaps of equity, gender equity, regional equity. There were major issues of quality and so on. But by working together at the national level, at the global level on what was called the EFA, Education for All, we were able to very quickly ramp up the program. And that's how we ended up having 100% access. So our vision is similar. Make sure that 2 and 2 become 6 or 8 or 10. Over to you, Wahiga.
Madam Kagia, thank you so much. Very comprehensive in terms of GNU and of course other initiatives that have been rolled out in the country to help young people get access to opportunities. And I'll be coming back to you a bit later on to talk a little bit about the gaps which you mentioned in your opening statement. But let me bring in Wawera, who's a young lady on the ground, very accomplished at a young age, but has also seen what some of the effects of COVID-19 are on young people and the families that she works with on a day-to-day basis. Now, she runs a school feeding program. Schools are out at this moment. What happens to the children who were getting their daily bread, quite literally, from schools like that? And of course, what challenges has she seen out there? Wawera, thanks for joining us, and please give us your perspective. Wawera, if you can hear me. Okay, if we're not able to get Wawera on, we might have to circle around and come back a bit later on. Wawera, let me try this one more time. Can you hear me? Okay, my apologies for this. We now live in a virtual world where you have to be ready for any eventuality. I'm going to give it another 10 seconds. If not, Siddharth, I'll come back to you. Wawera, do we now have you on the line? Okay, it seems not. And of course, I'm already seeing some of the questions that those who are engaging with us are sending in, and I'll be looking at them a bit later on. But Siddharth, I believe you can still hear me. Tell me this, because you began by giving us an overview of GenU and the challenge that young people are facing at a time like this. And you did hint at solutions, and maybe we can get a bit deeper into that. But of course, the UN country team in Kenya has prioritized youth as one of its core pillars in the UN Development Assistance Framework in Kenya. That's between 2018 to 2020. You spoke of the potential of African youth. Why prioritize young people in that plan, Siddharth?
You know, a few years ago, there was a very remarkable point that President Kenyatta had made. And he said that youth unemployment could potentially also be an existentialist threat for the continent. It could be a cause for instability. I think we all took careful note of what he said when he was urging entire government, civil society, private sector, all of us to get on with this. So when we were doing the preparations for the UNDAF for 2018 to 2022, this was really in the period of 2017 to 2018. It took us about a year. It was clear that the marching orders that President Kenyatta had given to put a focus on young people and youth was fully embraced across government, but more particularly with Devolution and Treasury being the co-leaders and co-chairs, along with Ruth's constant advice and guidance, we put youth and gender as the two prime movers. And the reason is very simple. The reason is simple is that if we want to reap a demographic dividend, the demographic dividend will only be reaped when we make that investment in youth, which means we need the 4 E's. First, to make sure we educate and skill them. Second, we make sure that we empower all of them, no one left behind, no girl cut at the age of 10 and married off by the age of 11. Making sure that we open up, as I talked about, the Marshall Plan of employment. And the last one is equity, so that we leave no one behind. And if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, which Kenya and Ireland together really were the prime movers to making the SDGs a success, it actually echoes a lot of what Vision 2030 is all about. It is about leaving no one behind, and which means a lot of the UN's program is also focused towards the most marginalized, towards kids that are left out. There are about 1.2 million children that are out of school at the moment. How do we bring them all in? Because once we've set that trajectory, the sky's the limit for Kenya, because our simulation models, economic terms and demographic terms are, if in the next 5 to 6 years we were to make these investments, Kenya can easily move into a double-digit economy. Over to you.
Thank you, Siddharth, for that. And I love the 4 E's. Again, lots of questions, but let me see if I can also bring in Wawera, who I believe we now have on the line. Wawera, if you can hear me, help us with your perspective. You're on the ground. You've seen the effects of COVID-19 and why GenU is very important at a time like this. Talk to us.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here, first of all. Thank you so much for having me with the distinguished panelist and also His Excellency who's listening in, and also the youth who are tuned in. I think as a young person, one of the things about COVID-19 has been the impact has really brought into focus the inequalities that exist among us, and with young people particularly affected in terms of, for example, I work in food and education access, with kids being out of school, the food that they were depending on that they used to get when they were coming to school was no longer there. And also with parents being laid off, we know with the massive job cuts that we've seen, the people who are, for example, casual employees are the first to leave. So those are a majority of the families that we work with. So one of the things that has really come into focus for us, especially now, has been how vulnerable young people are in this country, and how much in this country and across the continent, young people need support. For example, through initiatives like GenU and the other initiatives mentioned. For us, we've been providing meals to kids while they're at home. So feeding them and their families, ensuring that they have the right nutrition, because we know for children, malnutrition is a big issue on our continent, really can hold us back economically and does hold us back. So thinking about how can we give young people the nutrition they need, the education they need, so that they can lead this continent to prosperity, as is their future.
Okay, Wawera, thank you so much for that. Briefly, tell me this. Madam Kagia spoke about gaps in terms of programs that have been rolled out, numerous programs to empower young people, but somehow don't seem to be achieving the full effect that they were intended for. in your view, when you look at the young people that you deal with, where are those gaps? Where do you see inefficiencies that could make providing opportunities for young people a much easier task if they were addressed, if they were dealt with, Wawera?
Yeah, I think that part of the gaps that we've seen are, when programs are designed for young people without young people in the room in terms of designing them. So I think one of the, initiatives like Janu is where young people are being invited to the room in terms of having a conversation and saying, what is it that we need? What do young people actually need? So one of the gaps that I've seen on the ground is that young people feeling very disenfranchised, feeling that, if an initiative is rolled out, it doesn't belong to them. So that ownership is also really important in terms of making young people feel that they are part of this country, they are a resource for this country, they're not a category, that we're not on the sidelines. For example, if you're having a meal, we're not a side salad, we're the main course. And so we should be part of the conversation. We should be part of making the programs, of designing, of having having also the positions that enable us to have power to be able to decide and to make programs that work for us, by us.
I like that. And I believe Madam Kagia actually began that way. And I'm going to give her the final word on this because we do unfortunately need to move to our next panel. I wish I had more time for this. Madam Kagia, you've heard what Wawera has to say about what more can be done to make sure youth programs are more inclusive. And that's actually how you began your statement when I gave you a chance to speak. Is there anything more you'd like to add to that in terms of perspective moving forward?
Not very much more, Wahiga, except to say that we're actually putting our money where our mouth is. The steering committee for GNU includes about 10 young people, and we are being quite serious about making sure they are really young people. And we intend to take into account their voices. Secondly, as you all recall, it was not accidental that the president appointed young people as chief administrative secretaries. Is a way of enriching the voice of young people, even at the high levels of government. So there's a very proactive effort across the board to make sure that, as has just been said very clearly, you are not a side dish, you are the main dish as young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Kagia. And I think that's how we're going to wrap it up. Thank you to each of my panelists who've been a part of this brief but very insightful conversation. Siddharth Chatterjee, thank you so much. Madam Ruth Kagia, obviously from the Office of the President, and Wawera Njiru, who has added some new lingo. For some of you out there, young people, not the side dish, but they need to be the main dish in all conversations around them moving forward. Now, before we get into our next panel, and shortly I'll be sharing with you our social media handles, because I know you want to really start tweeting about the conversations here. I'd like everyone watching this to further understand who Generation Unlimited are and what is needed for young people to be truly unlimited. Take a look. Well, our sincere apologies for that technical hitch. We're going to try that once more. Now, this video is actually, let me give you a brief summary about it. It's about young people who are part of innovative solutions, and that's the theme of the launch today. This is a KCB to Jiajiri video about a program that they have. So take a look, and this time I believe you'll be able to hear.
Kicked off last year in October 2019. Under this program, we are supporting the entry of youth into the agricultural sector through hydroponics farming. And the idea behind the program is basically just job creation.
Kazi haikuwa inapatikana, ilikuwa siku mara moja, siku mbili inaisha.
It was hard to get a job, but through the program, it is easier to get a job and you wanna live it.
Hapo awali nilikuwa natafuta job sana, ile kuhustle. Hapo wakati nilipata hii job, tu inanipatia motisha kuamka na kufika kwa site on time.
Lakini inanifanya kila siku niamka asubuhi ni at least nisitegemee mtu, nikuwe najitegemea mimi mwenyewe.
Currently, we have 136 beneficiaries who have joined us. So we have 176 beneficiaries who are constructing the greenhouses. We have also 100 youth from the community who are taking part in the construction of the greenhouses, and they will be brought on board to the program. We have 100 greenhouses at this farm. So far we have done 56 that we have covered with the UV cover. But from the greenhouses that we are constructing, we have other facilities like the accommodation area that will cater for 100 beneficiaries. We have the kitchen that will be taken over by KCB Foundation to Jiajiri graduates in catering. We have the clinic. We have the COVID-19 isolation section. We have produce and sorting area, operation block, and the generator room.
The MasterCard Foundation has provided funding. So the KCB Foundation and ourselves are implementing partners for that program in Kenya. Uhuru International are the lead partner under the agriculture pillar. We have a company called Gearbox, who are the lead partner under the manufacturing pillar. And then you have ourselves, Axkills, who are the lead partner under the construction pillar. Some of the things that we've done is actually reduce the number of teams that work together. We increase the number of tools so that we minimize the sharing of tools among workers. Everybody is screened as they come in the morning and as they leave.
About the pandemic, we are doing our best to observe the measures, wearing the mask, sanitizing every moment.
KCB Foundation, I've been able to register my own company. At the end of this program, my aim is to become a contractor.
Na plan nikitoka hapa ni register my company, nijiajiri na hii kazi.
I would highly recommend some other youths outside to this KCB Foundation program. Hii program inasaidia mayouth sana sana, mtu unajifanyia, unakuwa unajitegemea au utakuwa kiidol huko nje.
Ile kitu ningependa kuambia MasterCard Foundation, Young Africa Works ambao wamepata na KCB Foundation tujiajiri na Axkill. Asanteni sana, ni kwa maana mali nimefika sasa hivi ni kwa sababu yao.
They have really helped me. I will highly appreciate them. They keep up with the same spirit.
I would like to thank them, one, for allowing us women to work with them in construction industry.
KCB to Jiajiri, and you've seen many other sponsors involved in that, helping unlock opportunities in farming, construction, and so much more. We need to hear more stories like that to keep young people motivated and working hard to reach out to these opportunities. Thank you so much for being a part of this once more. And of course, really glad to have His Excellency the President listening in. At this time, I want to hand over to our other studio where Adele Onyango is on standby to take us to part 2. Adele, over to you.
Thank you so much, Wahiga. Just checking in to make sure that you can hear me all right. It was such a beautiful conversation that you had earlier on. I love what Wawira said about we're not salads, we are not side dishes, we are the main dish. And I literally went straight onto my Twitter and pushed that out. And remember, if you are streaming this conversation, we want to hear from you as well. So make sure you use the hashtag #GenUKenya. And I'm going to be checking out some of the tweets that are coming up. But speaking of being the main dish and not side salads, I have a great panel up ahead. And the reason why I call it great is in light of what's happening in the world currently. And even just in Kenya, we hear the term youth bulge. And that's exactly what we're going through because we have a high population of young people, over 20%, and that's the definition of a youth bulge. There are about 1 million Kenyan youths between the age of 16 and 24 years, and they're looking for employment, right? But about 150,000 to 200,000 jobs are created every year. So the math doesn't add up. It's a crisis that we really have to unpack and figure out what exactly is the solution. So in this panel, we're going to be looking at youth unemployment and in present day, because of the pandemic we're facing, the effects of COVID-19 on that crisis, right? We're also going to be looking at the government's responsibility in addressing youth unemployment. And we're looking at the disconnect between present day education and present day jobs. I mean, even just us having this conversation from various locations has shown that the world is dynamic, it has changed, and so has the job market. And lastly, we're going to look at how to ensure the safety of young men and women, even as they seek access to education. So to help me have this, I have an amazing group of young people. I want to introduce Jenny Njuki, who is, and I love this phrase, I hope to use it on myself one day, a passionate firecracker with Youth in Action, or YAC. She has over 5 years experience in youth-led programs, including enhancing youth accountability in Africa and beyond. Thank you so much, Jenny, for being here. We also have Nadia Ahmed Abdallah, who is the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of ICT. And get this, at only 28 years of age, she is the youngest Chief Administrative Secretary in Kenya. And we also have Bernard Karanja, who is such an innovator. Speaking of us battling a pandemic, he is the creator of Tiba Ventilator, which is the first approved mechanical ventilator produced in Kenya. So we are in the presence of greatness, even though it's virtual presence. And last but not least, we have Zach Kinuthia. He's the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Education. He previously worked in advocacy and was a student leader. So I'm going to jump right into Nadia. And just first to say congratulations. It's a huge deal that you are the youngest CAS, and being a woman, a young woman, breaking that glass ceiling, it is commendable. And so I want to jump into your role, and especially the government's role in addressing unemployment, youth unemployment. There have been numerous interventions over the year, but the data is showing that the crisis is still there. It's not changing, right? So maybe you can shed a light on what's going on. What's the government getting wrong, if at all? What needs to be changed going forward to make these programs as efficient and as impactful to young people as possible? And do you need any support from us?
Hello, thank you very much to His Excellency the President, and to all the dignitaries and to all the youths of Kenya. Habari zenu, and a good afternoon. Before I answer that question, I'd like to just support Madam Kagia when she said that young people are actually the main dish. And as you had introduced me, I'm actually 29 and the youngest CAS and in the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs. I would say as a government, There are no changes, but an increase in synergy and youth involvement. As you know, as the government, we work as one. So every ministry works together and synergizes the different programs that are there. The only different thing is that there's a lot of youth involvement right now. The structures are now on a local community approach. And you can take an example, Kazi Mtaani. Kazi Mtaani, the supervisors are the young people. And then you have the chiefs, you have the wazee wa nyumba kumis that are actually now monitoring these young people. You have the youth participation. So this is a program that has actually been won by the youths. They have actually taken it up themselves to actually now own it and know that they're part of actually the meal and not just a side dish. Another way is the approach that we have is through mentorships and trainings approach. And you know that this is a very effective way that does things. So most of our programs, and in a way for us to make it more sustainable, we actually mentor the young people through the different channels that we have, through the different partners that the government has, whether it's education, whether it's health, whether it's ICT. We use the mentorship and training mechanism so that we build a youthful foundation of young people who not only employ themselves, but also employ the other young people who are in their communities, in the grassroots and in the urban areas. Then we have the involvement of the young people in key decision-making areas. I am one of them. I am a policy maker. I am a key decision maker. So I am involved in actually amplifying the president's Big Four agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals in 2030, to make sure that the young people own these different programs and to also show the effectiveness that the young people have and to bridge the gap between the young people and the government. Then you have programs that are both easily accessible online and offline. Take an example, Ajira Digital. Ajira Digital, we have the Ajira Innovation Hubs, the accessibility to internet, the free accessibility to just go in to get information about the various programs that the government has. And we have His Excellency, the President himself, as a champion for the youth. He's always involved and following up on the programs that the youth have been allocated to, both locally and both globally. This actually promotes accountability, transparency, and it makes the young people understand and know that His Excellency, the President, is for the young people of this country.
Thank you so much, Nadia, for that. Very insightful. And I think one thing that we're going to address on this panel is just how do we bridge the disconnect between what's happening in government and the young people on the ground across the country to ensure that they know what's happening, yes, but also how do they plug in? Checking the tweets coming in and on Facebook, those are questions that are coming up. They say, yes, this is happening, but okay, where's step one? Where do I log on? Is there a portal? And we're going to get to that in this panel and give you a chance to talk about that. I really want to bring in Bernard here, who I'm just so honored to have you on this panel because in the middle of a crisis, a pandemic, you took it upon yourself to innovate solutions for your country and a solution that can be replicated across the board. But you're also the president of the KU Students Association. And I think this is how we can start bridging that disconnect, is for you to speak to what are the young people really feeling on ground about their employment prospects once they finish campus.
So thank you so much, Adele, and thank you to everyone who have joined this conversation. I'm glad even the President of the Republic of Kenya is joining us today. It's really a great thing. On what you've asked about what exactly the students and the graduates are feeling about their prospects employment in Kenya, first of all, what advises and what really informs the mentality of the students is what goes on in the mainstream media, what goes on the media exactly is what informs our minds on this. And in the recent past, there's in 2018, Kenya Institute of Public Policy and Research Analysis published a document that was titled Employment Distribution of Graduates in the Economic Sector of Kenya. And they cite and say that there was a drop from 79% in 2011 to 13% in 2017 of the number of graduates that are employed in their year of graduation. So these are the kind of information that students at the university and fresh graduates get access to. So this tells us that there are two kind of mentalities that we have. There are two kind of students that we get to have. One is what I call the optimistic type. The optimistic type are the one that really believes that if actually I put more effort, if I become more smart, if I work more hard, then the market, the job market can really absorb me. And they actually go ahead to do that. You realize that these are the people who, when they go on internship, they're the people working very hard, trying to make a brand and trying to prove to these companies and these private sectors, and even the government, that actually I'm worth this. And once I graduate, you guys can consider me. And true to it, it happens. Then there's a second type that has really believed that now, with the current trend, there isn't really much that can be done when it comes to the job market. And you realize that these are the people who begin startups even in the university with their help money, with the need money they get. You realize that they start selling smokies, selling chapatis, selling kahawas at night, because for them, they believe that outside there's really nothing big that can be done. There's no employment, it is hard outside there, and the statistics informs that. So they begin to have startups. They begin to make sure that they prepare themselves for self-employment rather than going to seek for job from the government and from the private sector. True to it, most of them go through, some of them don't. But I think that the key thing is that the government and the private sector should really look into these two types of people. That the people who are really focused on becoming smart, doing the best that they can, and ensuring that they are able to be tailor-made for the job market. The government should take into consideration this. Then the other type that believes that I can only do a startup, that I can only begin doing something, the government should also chip in and ensure that there is funds available for these fresh graduates. You realize that, like my predecessor said, there is money for Wezo Fund, for Youth Fund. And I think if this money can be more accessible and to these fresh graduates, if we can have kitties set aside for graduates who want to do startups, then we can be able to cater for the two types of students that we see in the universities. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bernard. You spoke, it's like you're in my mind, because I wanted to speak to that. I wanted to ask you to speak to that, where when we talk about youth unemployment, there's a conversation of, okay, the youth need to get involved in the job creation situation, but the environment, we really need to look at it and see, does it really favor young people being able to set up their own businesses easily or not? So I'm glad that you brought that up. I want to bring in Jenny at this point, because we've talked about graduates and not enough jobs. And there's a lot of work that you do on the ground.
We can't hear you, Adele. We can't hear you, Adele.
Okay, let me try and, can you hear me now?
Yes. We can't hear you, Adele, yet.
Jenny, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, so Jenny, I wanted to bring you on here. Apologies for that technical hitch, but we're adjusting to our new normal.
Right.
And I wanted you to speak to what do you think needs to be done to reduce this gap between youth unemployment, not enough jobs? Do you think there's a role played by skills, the skills that we're getting, young people are getting equipped with our education system as of now? Are they relevant skills for the dynamic job market that we know is the case now? What are your thoughts on this?
Right. So, thank you, Adele, for that question. So with this, I was just, thinking through it and seeing that we have about 800 young people that join the labor market, graduates every single year. And out of this, we have 80% of the unemployed that are below 35. Yet Kenya is a very youthful population. So definitely we do see a very big gap in terms of the numbers that we release to the employment sector and those that actually get jobs. And so it actually causes us to think around, what can be integrated in our education system around building, the skills of young people to think critically and be creative around things like innovation. And I'm happy that earlier on, Bernard was alluding to the ventilation that they're able to come up with. Had it not been for COVID-19, I'd be interested to know whether we would have such sort of like creative ideas that have been created. We've seen a young man who's actually even been supported by His Excellency, the President, with the beds on the ICU beds for COVID. So what we're seeing is that young people are coming up with ideas way beyond the theoretical stuff that we learned back in school. So what we're seeing is that we really need to address the big elephant called unemployment by ensuring that we have innovation. So we really need to become more creative thinkers and critical thinkers in terms of solving the problems, other than being part of that wagon that keeps complaining that there is unemployment. So I do definitely see a role in, bringing together various stakeholders to actually ensure that we have innovation, investments, and commitment to support young people. So that just earlier on, something interesting was when Teardrop and El Shapan referred to, we need not to walking into unemployment, but may we be the ones that create employment. Ndio shida ikue kuchagua kazi. I really liked that phrase, and that phrase stood out for me because we young people have a capacity and a role to play, because we need to ask ourselves, yes, gaps do exist, Erdel, and I hear you very loud and clear on that. However, what is our role as young people? What can we do now that we're in the space of digital space, which helps us think, that helps us, get content from various spaces and be able to, knowledge sharing is very key at this space. And so we can drive our country forward by ensuring that as much as, yes, there is unemployment, but be like the likes of Bernard, that we create the jobs for the young people. We create the jobs for the generations that come after us, so that shida ikue kuchagua kazi. And so for me, mine would go to a challenge, and to challenge all my young people, the young people who are watching, us young people, let's take the responsibility to join the government's effort on this one. Because we've seen the, kazi mtaani during COVID, but what more can we do? And we've seen the president calling out on us young people to think more in terms of innovation and solutions, so that as much as we're asking for support, we're actually able to, put that investment into value. And so it's for us young people to take it by the horns today and actually reimagine and reinvent the space and ensure that we actually create most value from the existing gaps, because we are sharp, we are powerful, and we've been given the platform to speak, and we can do it. So yeah, with that, it's just to challenge us and be able to narrow down that gap, because the education system is there and it's important. I stand for education. It's very important. But then what? We have been taught in schools, but now we have the power. So let's use that power, and then let's request and call for stakeholder support in investment in young people, around innovation and starting the angel sort of investment and funding to support startups, just as Bernard had shared earlier, so we can grow it.
I definitely do agree with you, and I'm seeing a couple of chats coming in on Zoom, applauding that point by Bernard, and that has been echoed by you, Jenny. And also speaking to, when we talk of innovation, we also have to think of the creative industry. The creative industry is one that I believe they, even during this COVID experience, they are creating not only solutions, but spaces where our stories as young Kenyans and young Africans, as young people, can be shared. And it would be nice to just have our panelists start thinking about what kind of seed funding can be pushed specifically for the creative industry as well. Zach, I want to bring you in. I don't know if you can hear me now. And because you, of course, are a young person working in the Ministry of Education, I want to understand how you, as the Ministry of Education, are approaching this challenge of preparing young people for the present day job market. Coming off of what Jenny said, that education is important, yes, but I also do believe it's got to be relevant education for the present time. And so I want to know, what is happening inside the Ministry of Education around this particular problem, and what more can be done to reduce the lack of access to internet connectivity. I think COVID showed us that, we're lagging behind on making sure that young people have access to internet and can continue their education. Zach, I think you may have to unmute.
I hope you can hear me now, Adele.
Yes, I can hear you nice and clear.
Thank you. Your Excellency the President, all the staffs under the State House, all the CSs, PSs, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors, and all the envoys in this meeting, and my fellow youth, over 400 people joining us, good afternoon. Adele, you would not have asked me a better question than the one you have asked me now on what we are doing to respond to the present day connectivity and opportunities to young people on the jobs. First of all, it is clear and open to all of us who can see and hear that the president has embarked on a TVET renovation, what we are calling the renaissance of technical training and vocational education in Kenya. This one is supposed to address the skilling, or rather the skill gap that exists between the learning and the industry. Because over the last 1 decade, people have been going to the university as a matter of norm, only to find out that their training is not relevant in the market. And that is why the problem of unemployment and the youth bulge is being quoted all over the country and outside our country. So as a government, since 2016, when the president founded the Technical, Vocational and Technical Training State Department, we have embarked on a ruthless construction of technical training institutes, an ambitious plan that will have every constituency in the 290 constituencies in Kenya to have their own training institute that enskill the young people. I want you to be clear on this, that we are not training theory anymore in these institutions. We are training skills. And as Ruth had alluded before, our young people were badly unskilled. And this is why they were not able to be engaged even in the existing industries, whether that is manufacturing, whether that is in service. No skills were with our young people. They were full of theory. To address this and to ensure that we do not enter into the next decade, starting this year, with the same problem, the skilling of young people has been at the heart of the president. And this one, bringing the young people at the same ministry who understand their problem and who want to solve the problem, we have been building them. And so far, over 200 technical training institutes are operational. The remaining 90 are at advanced stages of construction and equipment. Remember, after constructing every TTI, the so-called, we call them TTIs, we are putting heavy machinery to train them, modern day machinery that will bring young people to the relevant skills in the world. What is our goal? We want to say, and we have been criticized by people, what if now this renewed vigor will flood the skills in the market? We are telling them we want to flood our market with skilled young people so that we can become the regional hub of exportation of skills. Many countries are looking for Kenyans to go and do jobs. Remember, the United Kingdom, through the Prime Minister last month, announced that they are going to admit younger people in Kenya who are skilled in their country. They are no longer going to put more weight on degree. They are now waiting for highly trained Kenyans to go and work with them and get opportunities in that country. Many more other countries are asking for the same. How are we prepared? How are we going to prepare our young people? This is through ruthless training. I do not want to go without saying that we also pay for every young person getting there, because we realized that 100,000 was too much. A rationalization was done through the president's guidance, and 56,400 was put as a standard figure. In this one, the president went ahead and said that we must give them 30,000 per every student joining to do a skill in these colleges, leaving them with a paltry 26,400. which is also available through Higher Education and Loans Board. So it is technically free for young people. I keep telling them when I go to the field, whether that is in Mombasa, Vihiga, Homa Bay, Murang'a, Eldoret, every places I've gone, I tell them it is almost free, and they rise up against me until I tell them what to do. So let me also take this chance and tell them, once we reopen these institutions in January, we are saying young people must go and register in the nearest technical training institute and vocational education centers. Once their data has been captured and submitted by the managers of this institution, they will be relayed to us as government, and we will send money. No more excuses for young people. And we are so happy. On primary education, I want to say that Article 53(1)(b) has given us the mandate of compulsory provision of education to all the young people, especially 10 to 24, who is the ambit of our discussion here today. And because basic education is compulsory and is a right which is embedded in the Constitution, the president has launched, as you know, last year, 100% transition from class 8 all the way to Form 4. And this is a compulsory requirement for young people. The former president, Moi Kibaki, launched 100% transition from nursery to class 1 all the way to class 8. This government, under His Excellency the President, we have launched 100%. Anybody finishing class 8, whether you have 25 marks or you have 499 marks out of 500, you must register to a secondary school and go all the way to Form 4. After Form 4, I am now taking them to technical training institutes. Others will go to universities. Others will go to vocational education center, which is the ambit of devolved government. I do not know whether I have enough time, but I feel like the Martin Luther King, I have a dream for our nation, because time has come and time is now for us to opportunities.
You've actually eaten into other people's time as well. So I will stop you right there, but you have brought out quite important points, and I want to make sure that at the end of this panel, know exactly where they can log on to get this information and bridge that disconnect that already exists. My only appeal is that you, as the Ministry of Education, look in the young people already in the job market who do not have the skills. How do you reach them? However, when we're talking about access to education, I would like to also point out that we said we were going to talk about how to keep young men and women safe enough to access this education. And we can't not speak about the conversation we're all having right now, which is around the teen pregnancies. And it's a layered problem, because the teen pregnancies are a result of multiple issues. You can look at rape, you can look at molestation, you can look at lack of relevant age-appropriate sexual education. And so I want to go in, Jenny, here, because of the work you do at YACT. It's directly in the middle of sexual reproductive health and educating young people across the country. And I want to know, based on the work you do and the data that you're privy to, on ground, right? What is the situation and what solutions are you seeing working already?
Great. Thank you, Riddell. Definitely since even COVID-19 and, the social structures of schools that schools provided have truly been disrupted. And when it comes to teenage pregnancy, which is definitely one of the key issues when we're talking about every citizen in Kenya having a right to health. Reproductive healthcare is indeed a right that affects a lot of women and young girls. And what we realized is that over a decade, Adele, we've had, teenage pregnancy being on the rise at a constant rate of 18%, despite the various approaches and and support from various stakeholders. And this caused us to, this led us to questions ourselves as YACT. Why hasn't there been significant change? And so we decided that we need to hear the voice of the young people. We need to hear the voice of that young adolescent boy and young adolescent girl and bring them to the room and really question what exactly is the reason why teenage pregnancy continues to rise. And so what we did was we launched a survey in 2019, a national survey, with partnering with various organizations, partnering even with the Ministry of Education. And in this survey, something that really stood out that was quite interesting and even more baffling is that, again, just as you said, teenage pregnancy is caused by a myriad of challenges, from, gender-based violence, poverty being a very key issue that drives teenage pregnancy. And right now we're seeing it, even the media reporting cases around transactional sex, where, just affording as little as a pad that would, for 40 shillings, young girls are exchanging that for sex. And this is because, and it's even accelerated more during COVID, where, the Basic Amendment Act that says girls are given free sanitary towels. During COVID, what is happening? And so we see young girls going back to, looking for ways to survive, and transactional sex being one of them. But one of the biggest in general was lack of general information. Young girls do not have access to general information around sexual reproductive health and rights that, gives them the direction for these young girls and young boys to make on their sexuality. And this has been such a big gap, because we come from a country where, we are in Africa. So a lot of our perception is due to culture, tradition, really influencing, religion influencing a lot on teenage pregnancy. So we do not openly talk about it. And we make it look like it's an issue of morality, so we do not want to touch it. Yet young girls are seeking and looking for this information. And we do know that the government committed to the FP 2020 and ensuring that we reduce teenage pregnancy. And more to this, that, we're able to actually increase the youth-friendly services. The goal of the government was to increase it from 10% to about 30% in 2020 by 2020, and up to 50% by 2025, to ensure that our adolescent and youth are able to get access to SRHR services, and ensuring, because the package is big, and we really need to emphasize that young girls we need to ensure that youth-friendly services are there. And during COVID now, that it has even created a new opportunity for us to rethink around the digital space. How do we use, for example, mobile cars as platforms to ensure that our young girls and boys are getting the right information to be able to make the right decisions around this? And so at WIACT, and probably allow me to say this, Adele, is that I will urge people to, www.wiactmovement.org is the platform to go to. We have actually, and encouraging young people to share what are some of the solutions, because we realize that we not give young people the solutions, but we need to create the solutions even around teenage pregnancy with young people. We need their voice to ensure the solutions that we are coming up with by 2030. We're not having the same conversation as we're having today in 2020.
I totally agree with you, Jenny. And I do, I'm running out of time, but this conversation is so important that I want to assure those watching that we're still going to connect all of the panelists together, because as much as we're saying there's a disconnect with young people, understanding what the government is doing, I think there's a disconnect even with the government and the people on ground dealing with certain issues. So it would be great to see WIACT, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health working together, especially in issues around the teenage pregnancies. However, I'd like to just thank all of you, Zach, Jenny, Bernard, Nadia, for being part of this panel. Unfortunately, because of time, we have to run on. But because you're young and because you're connected, people are sending in questions using the hashtag GenUKenya. So perhaps you might want to log on and just answer some of the questions posed over there. So we do, we do actually address the young people who are the core of Generation Unlimited. So it was a very insightful conversation, and I want us to go into what does Generation Unlimited really mean for us, not just globally, but us in Kenya. And I'd love you to take a look at this next video.
Our youth, as I have said severally, are our nation's greatest resource. Indeed, as I have traveled across the country, I am inspired by the creativity, the boldness, and the resilience of our young people as they use their talents and energies to innovate and to forge a better tomorrow for themselves as well as Kenya as a whole.
I'm a youth and I'm a farmer. Basically what I do, I farm French beans at Isinya. I have a 15-acre land and I was able to expand my business through the National Youth Fund. It has been of great help to us because we have met one of the big 4 agendas, that is food security. We are able to supply food both locally and internationally. We feel privileged that we can do that. We're able to get enough money that is supporting us and we are able to grow. We are also able to employ the youth because we have permanent employees here who are youth and we have casual laborers who are also youth. Yes, Mr. President, thank you so much for the support. I feel encouraged because I got the money through the youth fund and through your help. High five, and I would like to meet you and give you a big 5 for the greatest help you've done to us.
We will continue to ensure that we level the playing field for you through education, training, and we will increase opportunities for you.
Mi ni filmmaker and sana sana mi deal na film equipment and niko na vitu kama jibs, dollies, cranes, steadicams na vitu kama hizo zenye nimejitengenezea from scratch.
Is one of the guys amekuwa akitutengenezea kamera zetu, rigs huko, all those other things are technical. Wale watu master lakini waonagi wako behind the scenes.
Anatengeneza vitu zingine by the way kuja hapa namuuliza hii ni nini, ananiambia hii ni dolly, hii ni nini, hii inafanyaga hivi. Na zimetusaidia sana. Na
most importantly kuonyesha youth wa Kenya it can be done. So from Churchill Show family, thank you so much. Big up yourself and you are the future we've been waiting for.
Watu kaa Kenya Film School manze. So wakanichukua, wakaniambia ni aje hizo vitu unajua, tunataka ufunze wanafunzi wa Kenya. Deal sana sana na special effect. Kwa sababu ya kubelieve in me hata kama sikuwa na papers manze, mimi nilifika class 8. Alafu saa hii niko Kenya Film School naambia watu vile kufanya. President's success also ni success yangu, na appreciate the president. Mimi huombea president. Juu ile kitu mimi hufanya saa hii niko sure ningekuwa country nyingine singekubalishwa.
Kabla ya KIOP sikuwa nafanya chochote. KIOP ikikuja nikaanza sasa kulima. Grant ya kwanza nilianza kulima ya tomato na rice. After that hiyo kwanza ilikuwa shamba yangu, sikukodesha. Nikapata 35 bags. Hiyo 35 nikauza, alafu nikanunua shamba ingine tena. Nilikuwa ni lease kukodesha. Nikakodesha tena nikalima mchele. Shamba ya 3 nikalima tena, sasa nikajenga. Saa hii niko somewhere kwa sababu inibadilisha maisha, sikuwa na chochote, hata nyumba yenye nilikuwa nimeishi ilikuwa kidogo. Saa hii nimenunua shamba yangu, nikajenga, watoto wangu wako private school.
Hiyo imenisaidia kwa hii njia. Nimekuwa self employed ambayo nimekuwa na ajira yangu mimi mwenyewe. Kwa hiyo hali ile maisha ambayo nilikuwa hapo awali niliweza kutoka pale. Ninawashukuru zaidi sana kwa maana na jinsi ambavyo mmenisaidia pakubwa. Si mtu yeyote ama si kitu chochote iwe rahisi upate usaidizi kama hiyo.
Vijana ndiyo nuru, kioo cha jamii. We are the future of this nation.
KIOP came at the right time in my life, I would say that, because ilikuja point yenye umetafuta job, umehaso. Nilianza na kushona nguo, nilikuwa na machine. Hiyo time yenye nilikuwa najifunza, hizo pesa tulikuwa tunapewa 6,000, nilikuwa na save. I would thank KIOP. I'm really grateful for the chance and I'm hoping that it will make impact kama hiyo kwa youth wengine, and this is something that I would wish iendelee.
Na sisi kama wana youth wa Mombasa hasa tumefaidika kupitia mradi huu, kwani tumeweza kujifunza mambo mengi kupitia wale ambao walikuwa wanatufunza. Tumeweza kujifunza jinsi ya kufanya biashara, tukiweza kuitambulisha kupitia mitandao ya social media, na pia kuweza kutafuta kazi, na ili tuendelee kujenga taifa pamoja.
Well, great insights from that video, of course. And the most important thing is that it was the voices of young people showing that if they're given a favorable environment, they can innovate and they can create solutions to problems facing the country, the continent, and even the world as well. And coming on the back of a very great conversation there by Adele Onyango and her panel, just getting a bit deeper into the challenges that young people are facing, but also the opportunities and how important it is to have youthful representation across various sectors, including in government as well. And this leads me to the next part of the program, because after that conversation, I'd like to now hand you over to ICT CS Joe Musheru, who is also Kenya's representative in the Generation Unlimited Global Board, to take us to the next part of the program. CS, over to you.
Thank you very much, Wahiga, and good afternoon to everybody. Your Excellency, Uhuru Kenyatta, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, and all other dignitaries, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this afternoon, to be able to work with everyone in terms of launching Generation Unlimited Kenya. This is a great day for us. It comes just at the beginning of the International Youth Week for all the young people. So this is a time when we can all celebrate the great dividend that you've been talking to us about, Your Excellency. First, let me also just recognize the team led by both Ruth Kagia and Sid Chatterjee for the Generation Unlimited work that they've been doing in the country, and really just setting the stage for us to be here so that we can now be able to launch and really integrate the many programs that we have within the country to ensure that the youth are part and parcel of all the activities that we're involved in, from policy to implementation. As you've already seen, Your Excellency, your CASs are very active. They're involved in day-to-day activities within the government. And as you've continued to insist that we must work with everybody and ensure that we carry everyone together, this is a great example of how, as a country, we're working closely with the young people. Let me take this opportunity because Generation Unlimited is not only Kenya, it is actually global, to introduce Sid back. He was earlier on this conversation, really to introduce the UNICEF and the United Nations family, to be able to, just say a few words before then I introduce you. So Sid Chatterjee.
Thank you very much, CS. Excellency, President Kenyatta, let me first start with a letter that the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations sent last night. She wanted to actually join this event, but too many clashing events have prevented her from joining us via video. So let me read out the letter to you first. Your Excellency, President Kenyatta, on behalf of the United Nations family, I salute and congratulate your government and the people of Kenya on the launch of the Kenyan chapter of Generation Unlimited. The UN deeply appreciates your significant role in achieving this milestone. I'm aware of your personal passion for the youth agenda, and I remember that you attended together with the First Lady the launch of the United Nations Youth 2030 and the Generation Unlimited Partnership in New York in 2018. It is for this commitment that you were unanimously endorsed as the global champion for the young people's agenda. Kenya was one of the first countries to embrace that partnership, a sign that your government could, even in those early days, already see that young people constitute a tremendous and essential asset worth investing in, an asset with an unparalleled multiplier effect. Almost 9 in 10 young people live in developing countries, and the world today is home to the largest generation of young people in history. But in the world that is connected like never before, the aspirations, fears, and ambitions of young people are largely similar. The common theme is that they all want to be heard and want to be involved in driving social, economic, political progress in their countries. When we listen to them, we will hear them telling us about the incredible challenges, that even life-threatening risks that they face. They have challenges when accessing their rights, including quality education, healthcare, or decent work. The Generation Unlimited movement and the United Nations Youth Strategy aims to strengthen and increase commitments at the global, regional, and national level to meet young people's needs, help them realize their rights, and recognize their positive contribution as agents of change. The Sustainable Development Goals can only be achieved if all of us from both the public and the private sectors empower young people as leaders and enable them to unleash their full potential. I'm pleased that the United Nations country team in Kenya is working closely with your ministries and agencies in a multi-sector youth working group to implement the UN Development Assistance Framework. This is testimony to your government's belief that young people are an untapped reservoir of potential for the achievement of the Big Four development agenda, the SDGs, and the Kenya's Vision 2030. We must harness the demographic dividend that looms in the horizon. By 2050, Africa's population will reach 2.3 billion. We will have 850 million young people in the continent. I'm confident that Kenya can lead the way and serve as a blueprint for the rest of the continent. Generation Unlimited underpins the demographic dividend. On behalf of the UN Secretary General and the entire UN family, I assure you of our fullest support for the activities of Generation Unlimited in Kenya, and once again congratulate you, Your Excellency, and the people of Kenya on this momentous occasion. Thank you. So with this, Excellency, we move on to another great stalwart and a champion and a pioneer of young people, and that is the UNICEF Executive Director, Henrietta Fore. And Henrietta Fore has a message for you and for Kenya.
On behalf of all of your friends at UNICEF, congratulations to His Excellency President Kenyatta, the Government of Kenya, and all of our partners for the launch of Generation Unlimited in Kenya. When young people thrive, we all thrive. When we unlock opportunities for them, we unlock opportunities for countries, economies, and the world. But the fact is, too many teenagers do not finish secondary school. Fewer still progress to university or to college. Those who do can find a mismatch between what they learned and the job market. COVID-19 threatens to make this situation even worse, as businesses close, as jobs are lost, and as economies suffer. For all of these reasons, we must join forces to help young people gain the education, skills, and training they need to make their dreams come true. That's what Generation Unlimited, or Gen U, is all about. We're bringing together governments, businesses, financial institutions, innovators, UN agencies, and civil society to invest in and support young people as they prepare for the world of work. And with today's launch, Kenya is leading the way. Through Gen U, the Kenyan government is gathering partners together to ensure that more than 30 million young Kenyans between the ages of 10 and 24 are in education, training, or employment by 2030. Gen U is about designing and scaling up programs that work, like the Ajira Digital Program. This program, established by the Kenyan government and its partners, is providing digital skills and learning opportunities. So far, it has trained over 50,000 young people, with 120,000 more registered. And 40 Ajira digital clubs have been established in universities and technical colleges. Another example is Yoma, a youth marketplace. Yoma matches young people with tasks in their communities. When they complete these tasks, they collect tokens that can be used for skills and training courses and links to job opportunities. UNICEF also sees great potential in scaling up distance and online learning and skills development for young people. COVID-19 has accelerated this work. Through the GIGA initiative, we're working with the ITU and global partners to provide internet connectivity to every community and every young person. And we are developing and delivering new digital tools with our partners so that children and young people get the education and training that they need, no matter where they live. It's a critical opportunity to provide online learning, skills, and even remote working opportunities for a generation of young people eager to shape a better future. UNICEF looks forward to working with all Kenyans as we meet these needs. and with President Kenyatta, who is named a global champion of the Young People's Agenda at the United Nations General Assembly in 2018. Now, with GenU, Kenya is providing a blueprint for Africa and the rest of the world in supporting young people. UNICEF is proud to stand with you as we come together for young people. The future of Kenya and Africa is in their hands. So let's support them now, unlock a better future for us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, Kenya stands as a beacon of hope in a region mired in instability. Kenya represents the spirit of transformation, and what Kenya does, others will follow. And therefore, as the UN Resident Coordinator in Kenya, it is a privilege to serve in this country with a group of heads of UN agencies, funds, and programs who are passionate around the youth agenda. Recently, in January, with your Cabinet Secretary, Joe Macheru, we made a visit to the Silicon Valley. It was quite remarkable to see the reception that this joint delegation of the government of Kenya, led by CS Macheru, and the UN team led by me, received in the Silicon Valley. Close to 17 companies wanted to quickly get on to the Kenya's UN SDG public-private partnership platform. Your Big Four agenda actually addresses the fundamental key to achieving full employment. If we look at health, by 2030, Africa's health business will be about $300 billion. If we look at the agriculture space, that itself is going to be $1 trillion in Africa by 2030. If we look at affordable housing and we were to look at 3D printed and technology in that space, that is going to be another $500 to $600. The manufacturing space is limitless. And most recently, we had a conversation with CS Betty Mainas, how to start with UNIDO and our partners, pharmaceutical establishments in Kenya, that we could start producing gloves and masks and all those things, because this is not the last pandemic. It is going to be, and this is what CS Macheru constantly emphasizes, the harnessing of big data, technology, and innovation that will allow us to leapfrog the Generation Unlimited vision, the scope. Thank you for your leadership, Mr. President. I now want to hand back to your very young and youthful Cabinet Secretary for ICT and Youth, Joe Macheru.
Thank you very much, Sid, for that. Your Excellency, this use of technology is sometimes uncomfortable. I feel like I should be standing when I'm addressing you. But my role really is to welcome you to speak. I think everybody here is waiting to hear from you. We've got over 450 people just on the system here. We have another group on live on KBC and other stations and Facebook. So a huge population is ready to hear from you. But in line with the protocols, we also want to get the young people involved, because in this launch of Generation Unlimited Kenya, we do have the youth as part of it. And in the many conversations we've had today, they're saying they want to be at the table. They don't want to be on the side of the table. So I want to also welcome Lizen and Rukaya to really take the opportunity to invite you to speak. And so we have them also coming on.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, distinguished guests, na vijana wenzangu. My name is Rukaya Omar, President of the Children's Government. We are humbled to welcome you as a global leader of the Young People's Agenda to launch the GenU Kenya Partnership. Your Excellency, the agenda and investment will not only benefit me now, but in the future decade, because I will still be in the youth bracket reaping the harvest from what you are launching today. We, the children of Kenya, are calling on all stakeholders to join this GenU Kenya partnership to prepare a better and brighter future for our young people and beloved country. Your Excellency, kwa uhakika ni time yetu, town yetu, future yetu. Welcome.
Your Excellency, my fellow youth, all protocol observed. Welcome. My name is Lesey Mutunkei. I'm 16 years old, and I'm an active environmentalist. I'm the founder of an initiative called Trees for Goals. As a footballer, I committed that for every goal I score, I plant 11 trees. I've been able to involve my school, my football club, and my friends. Your Excellency, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for supporting Trees for Goals, as you have been wearing the Trees for Goals wristband, and I'm still looking forward to planting trees with you at the State House. Your Excellency, I humbly request in the spirit of Generation Unlimited that we may address you as a fellow youth, for indeed you are truly youthful in heart and in strength. We celebrate you as our global leader for the people's agenda. Today marks a special day and a turning point in our history as we launch the Generation Unlimited partnership in Kenya. Your government has created an enabling environment for young people like me to realize their potential through education, training, employment, entrepreneurship, and engagement as problem solvers. Kwa uhakika ni time yetu, turn yetu, future yetu.
Welcome, Your Excellency. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and indeed, thank you, Madam President. And listen, we will be planting our trees at State House very soon and see how we can turn this COVID period, when we're all in the state that we are currently in, into an opportunity to continue to push our environmental agenda. I'm very happy to see that you're continuing along that path. Let me also say a very good afternoon to all the participants, and to say I managed to watch a good part of the previous sessions, and really quite excited about the enthusiasm and the willingness to be involved that the young people have shown today and continue to show wherever I've been in the country. Generation Unlimited is an initiative who I believe time has come. GenU, I believe, rightly recognizes that the youth agenda is the defining agenda of our time. Because today, the largest generation is that of young people. It is the largest, not only in Kenya, but it is the largest in the world. And it is the largest that the world has ever known. Indeed, 1 in every 3 people is under the age of 30. And about 90% of all these young people live in the developing countries, and that is mainly in Asia and Africa. And approximately 3/4 of our own population is under the age of 35. This huge youth population has limitless possibilities to transform our societies and indeed to transform our world. But this is only if the right investments are made to prepare our youth for tomorrow's world. The GenU goal is to ensure that every person between the ages of 10 and 24 is either in school, in training, or in employment, and all this by the year 2030. This objective resonates very strongly with us because it speaks to an issue that is at the center of my administration. As I've said before, our youth are our nation's greatest resource. And I recognize from the very beginning of my own administration that this generation of young people has the potential to expand Kenya and Africa's productive workforce and turn our continent into a frontier of growth, innovation, and opportunities. And therefore, my administration will continue to prioritize investments in our young people. These investments, I believe, are already yielding some results. And we can confidently say that Kenya has made good progress to achieving the objectives of Generation U. To build strong foundations for competitiveness and productivity and to provide 21st century employable skills, the education sector in Kenya continues to receive the lion's share of our national budget. Currently, over 25% of our national cake is earmarked for education. And this is the largest single budgetary item that we have. I'm pleased to note that Kenya's education is recognized as one of the best on the African continent. Today, all children have access to free primary education, and transition to secondary education is now at 100%. Further, we have undertaken major reforms in the education sector, including, as was mentioned by the CAS earlier, making technical and vocational education and training more relevant and better aligned to the needs of our economy, and also making it more affordable for our people. The quality of education in our country is comparatively higher than that of peer countries. On globally harmonized test scores, Kenya's score is around 435. This is higher than many upper middle income countries, which scored 430. This gives us confidence that Kenya's labor force will be competitive on the global market. As many of you know, we have begun the implementation of the competency-based curriculum, and this will further enhance the quality, but also the relevance of our educational system. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciating the fact that our youth represents the future of any country, my administration has focused on trying to create job opportunities and sustainable livelihoods for our young people. And in this context, we have taken steps, for example, to expand the internship program with the aim of connecting skilled youth with job opportunities and to enable them to acquire practical and workplace skills. Indeed, our Big Four development agenda offers incredible opportunities for employment. As several of the video clips that we have watched today have demonstrated, there are many opportunities in agriculture, in health, in housing, in manufacturing, and in many other fields, including film, as we saw, and many others. I believe it is also worth underscoring that we have invested heavily in preparing Kenyans for a digital economy. And we have made great strides in harnessing and adapting digital technologies for the benefit of our people. We are close today to 100% universal mobile phone coverage, while 74% of Kenyans today are connected to the electricity grid. The Ajira digital program, which we have heard about, is helping technologically savvy Kenyans to take full advantage of the extensive technology platforms to create and connect to jobs, obtain accurate and relevant as well as timely labor market information, as well as to build a virtual support and mentorship ecosystem. Since its inception in 2017, more than 50,000 young Kenyans have been trained and mentored through the Ajira program on how to access work from digital platforms, and close to 700,000 Kenyans now source work from digital platforms. We have further put in place mechanisms to support the survival, growth, and productivity of micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises. For example, programs such as STAWI are providing some financial support to MSMEs that previously had been locked out of the formal banking sector. Towards the end of the month of August, another few weeks' time, we intend to also launch another product, again aimed at this same sector and to ensure that capital is more readily available to our young people. And this to support their enterprises. We have also, as a government, instituted a 30% government procurement opportunity, and these have been set aside for enterprises that are owned by our young people, by our women, and persons with disability. But despite all this, challenges still exist. Today, COVID-19 has disrupted our lives. We're meeting virtually as opposed to face-to-face, which would have been our hope today. This disruption has necessitated a shift in how we work, how we live, and indeed how we socialize. Many have lost their jobs or are faced with reduced incomes. But today I would like to encourage us all to focus on the opportunities during the crisis and to use the time to reimagine our society as well as our future. The digital ecosystem is one of the areas that is thriving and continues to offer many solutions that help mitigate the disruptions to our livelihoods and the economy that this pandemic has caused. Furthermore, my government has instituted programs, for example, such as Kazi Mtaani, which to date has engaged over 300,000 young Kenyans across the country in community and infrastructure projects. And this is not just helping young Kenyans earn a dignified wage, but also transforming the way we implement infrastructure projects. And we're learning a lot through this program, and hopefully this new way of doing infrastructure or major infrastructure projects will become institutionalized in our country. So even as we build our roads, even as we put up our electricity poles, even as we do our housing, we take into cognizance the fact that we need to include our young people in these developments. Young people today across the world, not just here in Kenya, are indeed change makers. They have become outstanding advocates for change in societies on issues of human rights, technology, climate change, education, and many more. We all know of the story of Malala, the Pakistani activist for female education, who is the youngest Nobel Prize laureate, as well as Greta Thunberg, the Swedish environmental activist, who has stood up to global leaders to make the case known that the future belongs to the young people. I also wish to salute the many young Kenyan changemakers who we today are inspired by the 15 medical and engineering students of Kenyatta University, who recently made history by making the country's first homegrown ventilator to help treat COVID-19 patients. I recognize the activists in Nandora fighting for disability rights, the human rights advocate in Eldoret defending the fundamental freedoms of access to universal health care, and the young innovators across the country who have heeded the call of Buy Kenya and Build Kenya and are manufacturing hospital beds and personal protective gear across the country. These and many such young people are truly the generation that is unlimited by COVID-19 or any similar challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I have heard some of you and some of the interventions that have been made. And some of you have indicated that you want to become more engaged in national development issues. You want to have a voice on issues that affect you today and in your future. And I want to say that I fully support that sentiment. And indeed, you will note that during the last reorganization of my administration earlier this year, I appointed several individuals under the age of 35 to serve as chief administrative secretaries. As they work and understudy their ministerial colleagues, my expectation is that they will serve as role models to other young people and instill ideals of patriotism, integrity, and excellence in service. Indeed, in the coming days, I want to appoint a few more young people to join these talented CASs who are currently working day and night to prove their worth, their capacity, and their ability to take the bull by the horns and lead by example and show that the time for Kenyan youth is indeed today. I also expect these young CASs to engage our young people across the country to increase the participation and level of input and influence of our young people in public discourse. So, ladies and gentlemen, even as we acknowledge the progress that we have made,